Okay, there we go, I think.
Yeah, good progress.
I'm not sure that it is the same meeting I was just in, but
Oh,
I logged into Zoom, like I was logged into Zoom and then I clicked on the meeting that was in there
uh-huh.
that set up for the Do It Live. So I wasn't sure if I had that right, but this looks to be the right one.
Yeah,
Josh
looks
is
like we're
here.
getting more people coming in. All
Awesome.
right.
Wait to the top of the hour to get things kicked off.
Sure. Yeah. What's the rest of your legalized shirt?
Oh, it's just legalized freedom.
Oh, I like that.
Say,
Good idea. What a
JP.
great idea.
I know. My stuff.
You want to rename yourself from guest autonomy to something else?
I'll just leave it at that because then someone might forget to change it back, and when they log in, they'll be me.
Yeah, that would not be good.
The tech gremlins that plague us all. Getting some nice weather down there in Annapolis.
You know, it looks beautiful. I've been like stuck inside dealing with my tech trauma. So I didn't do the hike I was planning to do today, but maybe I'll do a short walk later. But the blue sky out there.
It's a nice sunny day in South Jersey. It's been raining here all week, so it's good. It gets depressing.
You all set, Rob?
Yeah, I think so, Joshua. How you doing today? You look like you're enjoying yourself.
Yep, just went hiking out in the Desert Springs Desert.
Awesome.
In Palm Springs, I mean.
The Palm Springs Desert.
Yeah.
What did you see out there? Anything interesting?
We just kind of did the kiddie route, so just some lizards. But it was pretty. It was yeah, I'm loving the weather. It was like 85 degrees, so like perfect hot temperature. Lots of trees though.
Is it still chilly up in your neck of the woods?
Yeah, it's like hailing and awful.
Good to get down to the warm weather.
Yeah.
I did that in January. I went to Florida, and of course, the week I went was a record cold snap. So the first couple
were down there for that too.
It's like 40 degrees. I was like, oh.
Yeah. My wife, this trip is kind of the result of that because my wife was expecting sun then, and she had to like go buy hoodies and warm clothes down there.
Wow.
Cool. Well, I'll try and be listening in. You're in good hands. You've done this before.
All right. It's just about 3 o'clock, so I am going to kick off our intro.
Ready, set, go.
Hi, my name is Rob, and welcome to the Do It Live Autonomy podcast. Today, I'll be joined by Kat, who will be my awesome co-host this week as we discuss our favorite highlights from the past week. And without further ado, Kat, you want to introduce yourself?
Hi, I'm Kat, loving autonomy.
Kat is a season 7 student, so she's just getting her feet wet. I was a season 6 graduate, so this isn't the first time around for me. So today I want to go over the week in autonomy. So from our calendar, it looks like we had the Autono Toasters get together on Sunday. And then at 12 was the autonomy question and answer session. And at 9 o'clock at night, we had the Grand Theft World podcast. On Monday evening, or Monday morning, I'm sorry, there was a project manager meeting. And on Tuesday, we had a sewing circle and spiritual revolution podcast with Agneska. I'm sorry, Agneska, I can't say that right. And the True Care Support Network. And on Wednesday evening, there was the wealth battle with Lisa Manfredi and the leadership ethics with an organization with Michael Nimitz. And on Friday, there was a copywriting clinic that Kara held. And on Friday, we just got done another autonomy lecture, which is the season 7's 4th week. And the title of this week's lecture was Choose Your Destination, Identify Your Path. And I have a couple screenshots of presentation. And this is one of the slides of the presentation, the goal to outsmart yourself. Just good advice for people like myself who don't have trouble keeping their commitments to others, but sometimes we don't keep those commitments to ourselves. So to be able to outsmart yourself in that way so you don't procrastinate or wait to the last minute is always good. It's one of the things with autonomy. If you are looking for accountability, you can find people in the community who will work with you as an accountability coach and hold you accountable to what you say you're going to do when you say you're going to do it. So it's something good to help you keep your integrity. And here was a defining the good life slide. So these are the things that kind of we want to have in our lives to that we would consider a good life, you know, health, happiness, competent at what you do, being reliable to your, you know, friends, family, loved ones, being consistent in your approach to things, not being wild all over the place, being patient when it's required. That's something, me personally, I've had to try to learn over the years. I have 3 children, and you think you would learn patience dealing with 3 children, but it's one of those work in progress through my life, trying to remain patient in times of stress. And we have persistence, which, you know, sticking to your goal. It's one of the things that is taught in autonomy, is to fail, but to fail forward. We want to keep moving forward and learn from our mistakes and get better and better at what we do, to the point that, you know, we don't have to we don't have to settle for the failure. We'll eventually succeed if we put in enough effort and try. And then the appreciation of, you know, what you have, and the attitude of gratitude, as Richard likes to say. Be grateful for what you have. And you know, then there's your family, friends, loved ones, and your money. And one that's can't have any without the bottom one, freedom. And I have a shirt on today, just so happens to legalize freedom. It's something that seems to be in short supply these days. And one of the things that I wanted to talk about with the group today is their thoughts on this global government agenda that seems to be going on, and the type of alternate communities and things that we can do to, you know, break us free from that control structure that they're trying to force us all into. And with that, Kat, would you like to add anything?
Yeah, that was great. As you were talking, one of the things I was thinking of was that patience idea. The patience while you're waiting for one thing, that conversation, that you don't just like check out and do nothing, you know, like the idea of jumping into another one of the areas and moving something forward in that other area while you're waiting for something to happen in one, you know, so.
I have a clip from last week's question and answer session that has Richard defining sacrifice and the aspect of sacrificing a greater value for the sake of a lesser value. Phoenix had brought that up on the previous question and answer session. And let me share out my screen and we'll see what Richard has to say about that. Right. All right.
All right. So the book I'm using from this is it's called the Ayn Rand Lexicon, but it's really written by Harry Binswanger right here with an introduction by Peikoff. I like this because it has non-contradictory definitions. So the words it uses in here, if you look up these words in this lexicon, they all relate to like non-contradictory logic and they make sense, in other words. But anyway, let's go here. Sacrifice is the surrender of a greater value for the sake of a lesser one or of a non-value. Thus, altruism gauges a man's virtue by the degree to which he surrenders, renounces, or betrays his values. Since help to a stranger or an enemy is regarded as more virtuous, less selfish than to those one loves. I should like move the microphone over so I don't have to wait.
Okay. Well, that was great. A great definition of what the sacrifice is. Phoenix had brought it up in relation to being a freedom-minded individual who didn't want to compromise his values to, get along, go along to get along type of thing. And it was having an impact in his family life. And I remember when Richard had this conversation with him in a Q&A session, and he kind of, laid it out for him that sometimes you have to sacrifice, your values for something that's a little more important to you. And I think we can all understand that in that aspect of, finding things that I guess the normal crowd isn't buying. And I don't know. I'm babbling on. I don't know what I'm saying. Save me here, Kat. What do you got?
Well, like, sometimes we sacrifice convenience for something that's more valuable. I've been chatting about my trouble I've been going through with internet vendors lately, and I'm making a big effort to move my business to vendors with allied values. So, and maybe a little less convenient. And it's so I'm sacrificing convenience in order to support more freedom-loving allied people in the world, which is going to come back and be benefit for all of us, seems to me.
Yeah, and Kat was the victim of a bad internet service. Her website, the DNS disappeared off the internet. She can't get a hold of the people who supposedly are responsible in running it. So that brought a great question to the autonomy forum today, asking if anybody knew an autonomy-minded provider. And there was a few suggestions put in there. So that's one of the great things in autonomy is when you're in the community and you have a question about things that are freedom-minded. Being the large community, there's a lot of knowledge to draw from, and you get all kinds of ideas you may have never thought about if you sat and thought about it for days. So one of the great values. All right. One of the things that happened in the copywriting clinic was the copy was they gave some homework assignment for the people who joined the copywriting clinic to write their story in the voice of a fictional character like Gandalf the Grey, or trying to think of the other ones. Stephanie, do you want to talk about that?
Yeah, so I went to the copywriting clinic yesterday, and it's awesome because I haven't been back there in a while. Been focusing on other aspects of work besides writing copy myself. But I'm going to be starting to reach out in the form of emails on behalf of our client, Benny Wills. And so I thought this would be a perfect copywriting clinic for me, because she was teaching how you can use the voice of your client, or just kind of adjust your own voice in communications, which is what I'm going to do. But I do want it to reflect, the client's style and way of communicating. So their voice, as well as Agnieszka brought up, you also want to consider the recipient's voice and communicating style, and communicate that to them in a way that they can understand, because that helps to build trust between you and whoever is, listening or reading your communique. So that was really fun that she presented that assignment. And then she gave a little example of presenting the benefits of autonomy, or just kind of talking about autonomy in different voices. So she used like the voice of Yoda for one of them, and I forget the other one she used, but it was really an interesting study in using voice in writing your copy.
That sounds like a great idea to help you like retain what you're doing just by being silly. Those type of things will kind of stick with you. Where if you're just droning on like I do, you might just forget what you're
Yeah,
doing.
no, Kara's a great teacher. So I always look forward to those copywriting clinics. So if you're in autonomy, try to make it to those, because, it's free and it's definitely beneficial. Like if you're working on anything, then she'll help you out with the copywriting aspect of it.
Yeah, I attended one of them last season and I got a lot of value out of it. Unfortunately, they usually are 2 p.m. on my Friday afternoon at work, so I can't always jump in there. So it's good to hear what's going on over there. Was there any other events that anyone here joined this week that you want to tell us about? I can fill in the gap while you guys think about it. I've been taking part in Tony Meyer's Logic course that was available to autonomy graduates and members of the Grand Theft World community. It's a great class for helping you out with intellectual self-defense. It helps you identify the different fallacies and gives you a lot of examples of how they're used in everyday communication, whether it be advertising or the news on TV. It's I can see the value already, and we're only a few weeks in. This next week coming up, we're going to be working on actually practicing the fallacies ourselves. So that ought to be interesting, and can't wait for that. Anybody else have any experiences from the week in autonomy?
I suppose I can chime in. Can you hear me?
Yep.
Wonderful. Yeah, I think there was quite a few things going on this week. I know that on Tuesday we had a kind of a rather interesting interview with Max Egan that was kind of broadcast through Agnieszka's other Tuesday night event she calls Spiritual, I think it's Spiritual Waking or Spiritual Revolution. But that was a really interesting discussion with Max, and people got to ask questions of him in a bunch of different ways. I thought it was really interesting. I have got to know Max over the years, being that I'm down here in Acapulco, and he's been to Anarchapulco quite a few different times. There were some things I had never heard come out of his mouth, so I was really excited about that. But I think that's one of the things that I think he pointed out was that idea of community, and really building upon getting the established relationships with people that you can trust. I think is something that's really important, and it certainly comes across in autonomy.
Awesome. Thank you, Michael. I really wanted to attend that, but there's so many events that go on every week that if I attended them all, my girlfriend would have went home by now.
Well,
So-
kind of another one that we did on Wednesday. I do leadership, ethics, and organization. I got to put a little plug in for that. But this past week's guest was Andre, and I'm not going to try and pronounce his last name, but it starts with an E. And he was a former attorney and former stockbroker and real estate investor. And he talked about building, a vision for your business or for a project. And, what does an exceptional vision have? But I think one of the things that came out of that was this idea that, the best investment that you can make in regard to your own future is really investing in the people around you, the community around you. I think that's something that we miss, when we're talking about wealth. He talked about a bunch of different wealths and kind of that list that you had there. Health is one of those things. Family is another one. The relationships that you have, the network of people around you. Those are all forms of wealth that you can draw upon other than just the financial aspect. And I thought that was really, something to think about, that, developing the relationships that we have with each other through all sorts of different means, and certainly through financial means, is a way that we can really ensure, because even if you're, if you just go out and you invest in crypto or whatever, and you make yourself $1 million, how do you know who to give that money to? You've got to have trusted people around you. And so I thought that was a really important lesson.
It's a great segue into what I want to talk about. Essentially, with the new world order being what it is, and coming down on everybody in a very rapid fashion, the tiptoe has turned into a sprint, and it seems we don't really have a lot of these alternative systems set up, and we really need to work together in the community and try to bring these things that can allow us to survive outside of this technocratic system that they're trying to enforce on everybody. I never thought that I would be out being a farmer, but it has its much more appeal now. I had gotten into technology because it was something that I really enjoyed working with when I was younger. And now I see how they're using, advances in that technology to enslave people in ways that only a psychopath would dream up. So I have a clip here from last week's episode of Grand Theft World, where we have the so-called the wannabe rulers of the world talking in their World Government Summit. So to get us, oops.
Ladies and gentlemen,
Uh-oh. I thought I had it at the right spot.
very, very good morning on what is the first official day of World Government Summit here at Dubai Expo.
Sorry about that. Doing it live. Gotta change the speed. All right, let's try this again.
Ladies and gentlemen, a very, very good morning on what is the first official day of World Government Summit here at Dubai Expo 2020.
I mean, they call it world government.
Of this session,
It's as conspicuous
are we
as can
ready
be.
for a new world order?
Quiet
The
part out loud.
organisers here are nothing if not ambitious. This is, I think you will agree, a daunting subject for discussion at just after 9 a.m. on a Wednesday morning here in the relative calm of Expo 2020. But tackle it we must, because I believe what is clear is that we have hit an inflection point. We are certainly living in a unique age of uncertainty and volatility in global affairs. Whether you are from the global north or the global south, we have all collectively lived through the twilight zone that was the pandemic and the changes to our social, our digital, and our fiscal landscape that COVID-19 wrought.
Or that they brought to us because of their COVID-19 predictions and whatever else they were doing to us. It's crazy that these people do these conferences out in the open, and they have the most powerful people in industry and politics, and to speak about it as a bad thing, people try to demonize that kind of thought. And I think that the people who've created most of the global problems, whether it be pollution, raping the earth of its all of resources, and polluting and putting chemicals into the atmosphere, into our groundwater, and the idea that they're going to be the ones to come along and save everybody is scary. Anybody have any thoughts on that?
I'll share again. So I think, again, to bring it back to community, that's really the only counter to they, them, those, and their big plans. Because, like, what are you going to do when you can't go to the store? You're, like you said, you better learn how to grow food. So I've been communicating and connecting with local people in my community. And sorry, I can't be on camera. I'm preparing the house for company today. But so yeah, if you can harness those technology skills that you've learned, Rob, I think that's going to be a real big benefit, because what the local people in my community did was they created a Discord group. And, you know, Discord might be going the way of Twitter and whatnot soon with censorship. But, you know, there's also Gilded and some other platforms you could use. But the point is, it was really effective in just giving anybody who was like seeking the others, like, a place to go. So we would all congregate on this Discord group and then communicate there and get to know each other a little. And now we meet up and we have, you know, Agora markets, and a few out of the big group are making little mutual aid groups so that we can help each other, you know, grow food, find food, build things, learn skills, anything that we might need.
That's awesome. That's a great example of how to stay out of that, keep that system from collapsing on top of you, is to establish that with your local community members.
It can be hard to find each other. So there's more than just like, there's the freedomcells.org, but there's also like, you can follow Ice Age Farmer, and Marjorie Wildcraft has her idea of just like going out and starting a community garden. What else? There's other ways to find people besides, you know, just the one and only. Autonomy, Freedom Cells, community gardens. Oh, and then I guess Higher Side Chats has like their membership gets up and meets in person, different places.
Mm-hmm. I live in the farmlands of South Jersey, so I need to get out there and start making some connections with the local farmers, see what kind of things I can do in exchange for having a piece of something. I have like 2 acres of land, but most of it's wooded, so I don't have a large area that I can grow in at the moment without taking some trees down.
Okay. Another thing I've seen is that some people will post, I really love to garden and know how to grow food. Who's got space? And so you could post like, I've got a bunch of space, but I need somebody to like clear it and cultivate it.
Yeah, there's somebody who calls himself the urban farmer. I'm at a loss for what his name is,
I think
but
it's Curtis Stone.
I think it's Curtis. I know it's Curtis, but I maybe Stone, but it's something like that. I think you could find him by searching for the urban farmer. But that's how he started out. He went around and, you know, talked to people, because I think he lived in an apartment and didn't have land. So he started talking to people and subletting like their side yard or front yard and growing food. And he's turned it into something a little bigger than that now, but that's how he got started.
Awesome.
Yeah. Does anybody else have any examples?
I just wanted to say on the topic of Curtis Stone, he has gotten rid of all those gardening businesses and built himself, or is building himself, an off-grid homestead. And he did a talk on the Greater Reset, the most recent one. So you can find that on Odyssey and all the other places where you find those if you want to kind of see where he's gone now. He was really focusing on restaurant business with those microgreens and all when he was growing in everybody's yards and all that. And I think that kind of got untenable when all the restaurants closed. But yes, I'm not saying don't try to find space in other people's yards. I was just trying to give an update on the Curtis Stone aspect of it. And also with Marjorie Wildcraft, she recommends growing half your food. And she has a DVD, I think it's free, that helps you figure that out, and how many calories per day you need. And she makes a big point of saying you need something high caloric like potatoes or something like that, because you can grow all this salad, but it's not going to sustain you. And she recommends rabbits, and you wouldn't have to clear your land to grow rabbits, and you might could grow rabbits and trade somebody else for the vegetables. Also quail you can grow inside a garage or something like that. So just something to think about.
I'm sure if it came down to eating, I could kill these animals for food, but it would be really hard to take the pet bunny in the backyard and turn them into dinner for me. But desperate times call for desperate measures, right? I think I'm going to look into getting some chickens, because I do have a couple acres, and building a little house for them. And at least I can have eggs and an occasional chicken if I need to. But I'm definitely going to try to maintain a little bit of my own food supply. I know it's unrealistic to just scale up right off the bat. I've been doing a garden for a few years, but I haven't got the science down just yet. I've grown like a whole plot full of weeds. I think the last year was kind of discouraging. So I have a whole new approach. I'm going to put down some weed barriers and try to keep things from getting untenable.
Do you have enough land for sheep?
I'm sorry, what was that?
Do you have enough land for sheep?
Yeah, I do. I have like 2.3 acres, so I could fit them in somewhere. But I don't know.
Well, they're really good for reducing your labor and keeping your grass cut.
I could use that. I'm not a big grass guy, as far as I could care less as long as it's cut. I have mostly weeds. When I first moved out here, I tried to use that stuff that's supposed to, the weed and feed stuff, and it just put a big dead spot in my yard. And that's when I realized I probably should have paid for more than the 1 cent hydro seed when I moved in. 1 cent a square foot or something ridiculous like that per square inch.
Well, you could on that size property, you could definitely have little small chicken tractors, if you know what that is.
Chicken tracker, is that what you said?
Chicken tractor. I don't know. Am I on camera? Can you see me?
Yeah, I can see you.
Let's see. Can you see that little red thing behind me?
Don't see a red thing.
Well, it's a little, that's a chicken tractor. It's like, it has wheels on it. I hate using the word Google it, but search for it because I don't use Google. You raise them in there and they'll keep your grass cut, and then you just move it after, it depends on how you do it, but you move it after a week and you just continue to do that. And you'll end up having a beautifully soiled yard.
Oh, so it just takes the chickens and basically moves them around, and their waste product for fertilize your garden or your grass. That's a great idea. Whoever came up with that.
Yeah, look it up. They're really easy to do, and you can do them in a whole bunch of different ways. Pretty cheap, and you can make them kind of light, so you can just, after they've been there for a week, you just pick it up and move it a few feet to give them so you're steadily giving them a new little small spot of grass, so they're able to. It's almost like free range, except they're not. but it's a great way to keep your grass cut and rebuild your soil, and to have chickens.
Sounds like the definition of Americans. Free range, except.
Right, it's exactly the same
With
thing.
a list of exceptions so long, you will probably go blind reading them.
Oh, those are a lot
Yeah.
better than most chickens have it, though. I'll tell you that. I visited Joel Salatin's farm last year for an amazing event where I met all the fabulous freedom-loving people. And he's got a book. I think one of his first ones was called "You Can Farm," inspiring everybody that you can do it. And then so many people asked, how did you make this chicken tractor, and how did you make this and that? And he's real good at making things on the cheap. And he published a whole book of how to build this and that, which is a really great resource too.
That's awesome. Has anybody been taking the chance to do the permaculture class that's available on the University of Reason?
Not yet.
No, I haven't. Who put it on? Who's doing it? Like somebody with a lot of experience in permaculture?
I believe so. Stefan, I can't remember the last name. I remember seeing it out there.
I've been doing interviews this week. As y'all know, that's one of our projects, which has just been fantastic for getting to know other folks in the class and experiment with powerful conversations about why people are here and what people want to get and how to move forward, just kind of like we're doing now.
Yeah, I really enjoy the interviews. I've been doing a few interviews every week. The interview this week was to formulate an opinion or formulate a position you advocate for, and argue your side in the boardroom with other students and practice going back and forth. So it was a little bit of a wrinkle on the last week's assignment, which was more of a ask people, who they are, where they come from, what brought them to autonomy. And this one is more trying to take your ideas and be able to advocate for them. So it's a nice.
Do any of y'all practice any sort of permaculture around your homes now?
Currently, I do not. I need to learn all about it. It's one of those to-dos.
I have previously in the past. I don't have a property. I was just moving this past week, but I've practiced it a lot. We've had chickens, and goats are another if you don't want sheep, but goats are really fun and friendly and awesome as well.
Yeah, goats are great for clearing out brush. They'll just take a thick wooded area and clean it up, but they don't really particularly like grass once you're finished with that.
I've performed a few different permaculture projects at our old property, and we had like an herb spiral, I had swells, I had the beginning of a fruit forest that I started for my birthday, and we just left it at the rental property before we moved to South Carolina. And that's where I was going and getting all my stuff from this weekend. But yeah, so like Sepp Holzer and Jeff Lawton, they put out a lot of free also resources for permaculture, and the Permaculture Research Institute is a really great, they put out articles all the time.
Yeah, Jeff Lawton is fantastic. I couldn't recommend him enough. I took his course, I don't know, 7 years ago or something, and that was very helpful here at our farm for sure.
Yeah, that's who I learned from. I did him and Bill Mollison's like DVD set because I couldn't go somewhere and afford to take the course at the time. So and did all the free resources and then just started doing it in the yard. So it's like a learning process, just doing it. So
I can't
That's
remember.
a big,
Go ahead. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
and I just said, yeah, I was just commenting on her saying, yes, it's a big process doing permaculture.
I had seen this guy who made this greenhouse. I believe he was in Kansas. He was one of the central states where it gets cold in the wintertime, kind of like where I'm at. And he had built this greenhouse where he took some pipe and ran it into the ground about 6 feet down, where the temperature was about 55, like being 52 to 55 degrees, and put in a fan system to circulate that air to keep the greenhouse warm during the wintertime. And he was growing an orange tree in there. That's something that I kind of want to figure out how to do in New Jersey, because growing your own food's great until the wintertime hits and can't grow anything anymore.
Yeah, using that ground system to do that is fantastic. They, one of the problems that we ran into here doing that, trying to keep our situation is in reverse. Again, the summers are so hot in Texas that we wanted to keep it cooler in our greenhouses by doing that. And you got to make sure you get a big enough pipe, like culverts. You know, you can buy those big cheap plastic 8-inch, 10-inch culverts. That's the way to go, because it's easy to suck out that air more gently and it'll flow. We did it with a 6-foot PVC pipe and burned up about 5 or 6 industrial fans trying to suck the air through.
Was it
one of those?
Were you successful? Or is it something?
Eventually we did it okay, but we laid about 300 yards of underground pipe, and I didn't want to go back and dig it all back up. So eventually we found a really good fan that would suck it through. But I only use it occasionally because we really kind of screwed it up. So I really got to go back and re-dig it all back up and put a bigger pipe in.
Yeah, I think
it's part of those learning curve things. You just got to try it, and if it works, great. If it doesn't, figure out what you did wrong and fix it.
Yeah, the ultimate goal would be to have a self-sustaining system that you could, go away for a week and it's still going to water itself and keep itself in operation. Because that's one of the problems. Every time I would have a garden and go away for a week in the summertime, by the time you come back, it's not looking so great.
I don't know what that's like on a small garden. I can imagine that it's the same as or similar to a bigger place, because you have to have, no matter what automation you have to have eyes on. Automation fails all the time. We've tried to automate so many things, and some of it works, some of it doesn't, but nothing beats having somebody, there, because you're always going to have problems. So you got to address them.
Absolutely. The Freedom Cells, I've reached out to the Freedom Cell in my area, and there doesn't seem to be a whole lot of people involved that are close by. So that's kind of a challenge. Some of the people in this area are planning to take off to the mountains when things get crazy around here. So what does everybody think about the impending collapse of the US dollar? And as soon as they decouple it from the petrol.
That's an interesting question.
Go ahead.
I'll just say that's interesting, because you try to think about what would be a medium of exchange with people. Like, not everybody's going to have gold and silver, nor will they even understand the value of it, I don't think. So that if you have no internet, so you don't have any use of crypto, what asset or value do you have? Where, for one, nobody kills you, because you got to think, if everything goes to hell, People are going to, there'll be so much crime. People will be robbing everybody that they, I mean, nobody will be safe. You can't imagine what a very sweet, wonderful woman, how many people she would kill to feed her kids. And if that meant taking your food from the neighbor, well, I can guarantee you that's exactly what's going to happen. It would be total chaos. So, but then you think, all right, go to the mountains or go out into the woods. Well, what are you going to do there? Unless you already have some infrastructure already built. It becomes problematic if you haven't taken the steps already. And then if you have taken the steps and people know where you are, then you have to think about security measures. What do you do when other people want to come, they can get here or get wherever, you know, you happen to be with an infrastructure? Then you got to think about security. And then you got to think, what kind of a person am I that I know I have limited resources? Like, you built this infrastructure in the mountain, and I got this little group of our core people that I know and love and trust. And then we see these friendly strangers coming up, and you want to feed them, but you don't have enough to feed everybody. You start to get in a lot of big dilemmas morally. What is morality? It becomes a very serious and a gut-wrenching exercise that we may very well be faced with in the near future. Hopefully not, but it's interesting.
Yeah, there's
Honestly,
definitely,
go ahead, sorry.
I was going to say, they're definitely not fostering any kind of solidarity. It's they're on full scale, separate, divide, and conquer everyone at this point. So they're definitely
Just
going to have to find
sorry.
like people to get together with. Okay, I'm done. Sorry.
No, sorry, I interrupted you. It just reminded me of an idea I had recently to kind of prevent or be proactive. Is I want to connect with all my neighbors. I don't know my neighbors' phone numbers, you know, I don't even know all their names, but I do live in a nice little community neighborhood in a cul-de-sac. So my idea is to go around and, you know, it's not conspiracy theory anymore to talk about food shortages. You know, Biden said it. So have us all like share my seeds and have us all plant at least a little something in our yards so that everybody's a little bit more prepared. And then they won't come after me for mine, hopefully.
It's a great idea.
Well, I was going to say, I personally doubt that it's going to go the full on, like, we're going to shut down the whole internet. We're going to shut down the whole power grid, because that in so many ways works against their plan to do like a full shutdown. I would suspect, and basically this is part of this is based on, it only takes about like the average for building a new habit is about 18 days. So if you were to actually do that and shut everything down, like globally, or at least in such a large region that, you know, for the people in that region, it might as well be the whole world. They're very quickly going to get established to a new way of life, and it's going to be hard to get them back into the system you want them to be in. So what I would suspect is they wouldn't do like a full, like, we're just going to shut everything down and leave it like that and then turn it back on later, you know, after like a month or any extended period of time, really. What it would be more like is there'd be temporary for like a day at a time, or maybe 2 shutdowns or disruptions really in an area. And it would just kind of be a rolling thing that would happen for a while, that, oh, internet doesn't work for this, you know, these 3 days, and then it comes back. And then, you know, all power got shut off for these couple days, and then it comes back, and it just kind of keeps doing that for like months. And then it's like, okay, well, this obviously has to stop. Like, I imagine that would be more the scenario we'd be looking at, because it's just, I don't see an advantage to them to be like, we're going to actually ingrain people with new patterns and make them think the whole system is unstable, like forever. So that makes it sort of less apocalyptic in a way. I don't know if this is accurate. I imagine the maximum amount of time that they would want to shut down the grid in any given area would be 7 days, just to make sure like they don't hit that habit building component where people now are out and having to talk to other people. Because that's the other thing that happens when you know have big disruptions like that, is now people don't have the internet or whatever, so they go and talk to people. And in those first initial days, it's not too bad. And that's where a whole lot of community building and stuff would probably happen. When you already have, like, realistically, there's pockets everywhere of people who understand this. Those people are going to be, you know, the prized resource. It's probably not going to be anywhere near as chaotic as people like want to doomsday it as. Certainly, there's going to be pockets and regions and stuff where it is. But to be perfectly honest, I think the people who would be doing that would be like the Antifa types and stuff who are already doing that. They would be the ones who'd be like, well, we're just going to attack everyone because now no one's restricting us is how the mindset might go. But yeah, I just doubt that it's going to be like this super chaotic, like zombie apocalypse level shutdown that people tend to think, like the Hollywoodized version of it. I just don't see it.
No, I don't see that. I see more subtle. I think basically pricing things out of some people's range to the point that it causes unrest, and then you're going to start having people having to steal for their food. I think there'll still be food available on the shelves, but if you can afford it, that's a different story. And then there's going to be a whole lot of, this person's hoarding, and I don't know how far that they can really go with a plan like this, because there's a variable. Humans are a variable that you can't really figure out. When you start depriving people of food, all bets are off the table. The people in the ivory towers calling the shots might just get yanked out on the street, a la Batman, Ra's al Ghul kind of thing, where the people that are standing up above trying to direct things at these world government summits all of a sudden find themselves with a lot of hungry people looking for retribution.
Only about 3 months of that, and you have enough chaos, people not even really being able to figure out a new habit. And out of chaos, you can easily put your political savior in front of everybody that puts a new world order back into place, what everybody would be begging for. Crime and murder would be rampant. 4 months of a shutdown, you would have at least 25% of the population dead. We know that's one of their end goals. And then it would be so easy for them to implement a new system of safety and security, because of course they have a monopoly on violence, and they could easily squash violence with full-on military presence in the United States. That is not unreasonable. I don't think it would come to that, but I don't know what the end benefit, maybe somebody can explain it to me. What would the benefit of shutting down the internet for a day or two here and there, or blacking out the power a little bit here and there, other than to get you accustomed to things not working for the big show? What's the benefit of that?
I think they would save things like that for when things are starting, maybe people are protesting and they don't want people to know about it, type of thing. Then I think that's when you'll see your internet shutdowns. I don't know if their cyber polygon attack is really going to target the infrastructure, but it seems foolish to discount it, because every war game scenario they do ends up happening, and they act like they were surprised and weren't prepared for it. So
I was just going to chip in because talking about the world government, here in Acapulco, one of the things that it became very clear is that, like, the multinationals and the government were the ones that were really promoting the COVID stuff. And we can really look at the COVID thing as really just phase one of like a 3-phase program. And so what we've still got ahead is 2 more phases to go through this thing. But what was demonstrated here in Acapulco, and I think it's really one of the strengths of being here is when you have a culture that has a strong family and kind of neighborly practice, you're going to have, it's going to be a heck of a lot easier to survive any particular thing. And I think what Acapulco has demonstrated over the years is they've tried to wage an economic war down here for probably 30-40 years now, and even in the heat of the COVID, where they knocked out about 80% of the economy here, they were expecting people to be at each other's throats, but it didn't happen. And the fact that they understood how to be neighborly and how to treat each other as family is really one of the keys, I think, to really determining where you need to be. Because if you're living in a culture or a community that doesn't know how to treat each other neighborly, you're at a high risk. And that's kind of one of the things about the multinationals and the world government kind of format, is they're going to bring in police that aren't from your local neighborhood. They're going to bring in UN police or whatever. And, if you don't have some kind of local cohesion, they're just going to be able to run over you. Whereas if you have a local established kind of, relationships, that's not going to go over well. And I think that's really one of the keys. And then, of course, when it comes to like what has happened in COVID, they've knocked out a lot of the small businesses. And so like being able to establish relationships with your local business people and stuff like that, because they've knocked out a lot of the small mom and pop businesses, and you've got what's left, which is these like franchise multinationals. I actually did work for 7-Eleven and Citgo, and most of the franchisees were like coming from other countries. They were like Indian and Pakistanis in a place like Chicago. And most of these franchise businesses are doing that same kind of thing, where they're creating like these immigrants are the ones that are taking over the franchises, and they're not part of the local community, so it creates that friction between the locals and the business people. And that's certainly something to keep in mind. And so, the key, I think, is really to build relationships, to start building relationships with everybody, whether they're, local or not. The biggest safety feature you've got is having some sway and having some trust with other people. That's my 2 cents.
Thanks, Mike. Definitely need to band together and basically try to find the common ground with the people who may not always see eye to eye with you, because survival is probably going to take all of us together, working together.
I was going to, oh, sorry.
I was going to ask if anybody had anything else. Go ahead, Wendy.
I just wanted to add, encourage what Michael was talking about, was supporting building relationships with local businesses. I don't know if anyone's familiar with Make Americans Free Again. It's an organization out of Ohio. Pam Popper is the one who started it, and she's the one who first started doing some lawsuits using Tom Renz, and they've really made good progress compared to some of these other ones that are kind of shooting wildly into the dark with lawsuits. Anyway, so she has a program called Make Americans Free Again, and you can email her, Pam Popper at msn.com. I think I will check that and put it in the chat. Anyway, she'll give you the information you need on how to organize one, and they make a point of going out and supporting local businesses, finding out what they need, like during lockdowns and things like that, helping them stay open, or just staying in contact with them so that if they are having a real problem, the community can come together and get them through that rough spot. And that's one of the things that I'm trying to do with the little group that we just got started in the last week. So let me go find that information.
That's exciting, Wendy, that you're launching that.
Great.
Great job.
Thanks.
I'm gonna have to excuse myself. I have another appointment to go to, and you guys are rocking and rolling. So thank you so much. Yeah,
Okay, appreciate it. Thank you for joining.
my pleasure. See you soon.
All right.
I'll just add that one of the things coming up this next week, Leadership, Ethics, and Organization on Wednesday, I'm going to have Thomas Friedman and his Pirate Box new product. It's really been a kind of a derivation of autonomy group that kind of formed within autonomy, and they discussed this idea of kind of mesh networks and really kind of a secondary solution to the internet problem. And so if you come to that thing, we're going to have a survey, which actually it was generated from the copywriting clinic the other day. But if you come and you participate in the survey, you're going to get a free gift, which is the product. You're going to be able to download it for free. So that'll be on Wednesday for the Leadership, Ethics, and Organization, which is 9 p.m. Eastern time.
Cool. So if people are not familiar with the Pirate Box, Thomas Freeman has created a IPFS based solution to work independent of the internet. They've been working on getting a mesh network together so they can expand the coverage of it so more people can jump on the network and be free from the censorship that keeps coming down harder and harder every day. Okay. Does anybody else have anything they want to add?
And where do you find information about that? That's an interesting thing.
I saw some stuff in the class chat.
I can give you his website is piratebox.info.
Piratebox.info. All right, thanks. I appreciate that.
Yeah, good to see that project getting moving. I know there was a little hold up for a while there. All right, does anybody else have anything they want to add? All right, I guess I'm gonna
one
move.
more time. I'm sorry. You said Pirate Box what?
.info, INFO.
I got you. Okay. Thanks. Sorry about that.
No worries. All right, I'm gonna share some memes now. Get some thoughts from everybody. Oh man, I had the meme up. Where we go? Yeah, this one. Can everybody see my screen? I hope. I can't hear anybody now. Did I just fall off here?
No, I can see it.
Okay, cool. Yeah, so this one does kind of sum up the pandemic more than words. Photo op, smiling, happy, and then they're in front of the cameras pretending like, you know, COVID's going to kill everybody. Here's a good representation of NATO sucking the lifeblood out of the world. Here's Ashar Basad wondering how it is that nobody's noticing the war crimes going on in his country. This is one that we had talked about before. The Big Lebowski. All the world's a stage, but Putin, all the world's. And here's a nice kind of summation of the people waving that Ukrainian flag, sitting on the bodies of all the countries that America's invaded, and not seeing any irony. It's just a funny one. Anybody who's had walls like this as a child probably got spanked. I know I did. And here we go. Big topic these days. Biological men changing to women and competing in women's sports. Right. And here's another good one. Conspiracy theorists for bookies. A whole lot of money in your pocket. And to everybody who said enjoy the ventilator, enjoy that fourth shot. All right. It goes the memes. All right. Is there anything else anybody wants to talk about today?
This is something from maybe 2 weeks ago. I'm not sure, but I forgot to ask about it at the last Q&A. We were talking in the, I guess in the Q&A about doing multitasking, and, you know, and that was a good thing. But then, did anyone else watch the memory video? That I can't remember the guy's name right now, but it was an optional thing. And he was saying, don't do that, that you're really, don't multitask. You need to really focus on the one thing that you're doing, and you're going to get so much more out of it and develop all these great connections in your brain and all that kind of stuff. So I just wanted to know if anyone else stumbled across that and wondered about it a little bit.
I can't remember where I read it, but I read somewhere that if you try to switch tasks in the middle of doing one task, it'll take you 20 minutes before you're focused back on the task that you were switching back and forth from. So I know we all try to multitask as much as you can. And I've had multiple monitors for work for years. So it's, you know, I got different things going on different monitors, trying to do 10 things at once. And that's when mistakes happen. Inevitably.
The other thing it made me think of was being human, how we're really in a fight to be human right now. These people want to make us into robots or transhumanism, whatever. And here we depend so much on memory in our phone and memory in our computer. And the medieval people were wandering around creating these buildings in their heads that they fixed all these things that they wanted to remember in the different parts of the building. I had read in a separate book about, what is his name? Hugh of St. Victor had this problem, or this way of memorizing things for the Bible, where if you've heard of Cyprian or Vin Armani, he's always talking about build the ark. Well, Hugh of St. Victor was building the ark a long time ago, but he was building it actually by cubits in his head and fixing all these different things, like parts of the Bible and all these long lists of things from the Bible he memorized and built the whole ark. So I just thought that was really interesting, that maybe we should all be thinking more about developing our memories so that we can fight off this attempt to make us robots or whatever. Just very interesting. I was glad to see that in our lesson plan. So that's it.
Someone that I've seen in the past who does the memory stuff, a guy named Jim Quick. And I watched like a couple of his seminars and just got some good advice just listening to it. He was basically saying one of the things that people do to themselves is, you know, say that I can't do this. And when you tell your brain you can't do something, chances are you're not going to be able to do it. And it applies to people who say, and I was one of these people, like, I'm terrible at remembering names. Well, if you tell yourself you're not going to remember names, you're definitely not going to remember the names. And he gives you like a bunch of different techniques where you can use like cues basically to remember things. And watching him just take random words out of the audience and just repeat back 50 words in front and back order is a really impressive thing. Something I'd love to be able to do. Does anybody have any other topics you want to talk about today?
Who is this you're talking about, Rob?
His name is Jim Quick.
Oh, thank you.
The kid with the broken brain. That's what he called himself. or that's what they called him when he was in school, because he had a learning disability. So that's pretty, it's pretty amazing when people have, perceived disabilities and they don't allow them to be defined and overcome with determination and hard work. It's kind of one of the themes of autonomy. Right. Does anybody else have anything else they want to talk about?
Yeah, I just wanted to show support, Rob. You're doing a good job, and keep up the good work.
Thanks, Jerry. Appreciate it. All right. Well, I guess if nobody has anything else, we will go to the outro and play us out. All right. I thank you all for joining me today. Thanks, everyone. And you all have a great afternoon. And let's do more. Go. All right. It's playing tricks on me now. All right. So much for that.
I was gonna say, all I hear is birds.
Yeah, I had thought I had this queued up. There we go.
Set, go.
You're not screen sharing.
All right.
Buenas noches, my people.
Yeah, you did it.
Thank you, everybody, for joining me today. And you all have a great afternoon. And grow in the light direction.
Bye, thanks.
Bye.
Good workout, everybody. I'll see you guys tomorrow.
Sure.